It's 10 p.m. in our studios. We are live in Banjul, broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. In our top stories this hour, expanding opportunities for trade. African nations recommit to cooperation with Turkey in the third edition of the Turkey-Africa Partnership Summit. GRTS at 26, the national broadcaster celebrates nearly 3 decades of television broadcasting, putting the Gambia on a global pedestal. And 2 years of COVID-19. What's the public's view on the ravages of the global pandemic and new variants changing policy and lifestyles around the world? In sports, three-time champions Super Eagles are among the favorites ahead of the Nations Cup, but can Nigeria win a fourth African title after struggling in the build-up? And in the internationals, Hong Kong heads to the polls for the first time since major reforms brought in new security laws last year. And Europe moves to tighten restrictions as the Omicron variant spreads. Well, that's the top of the news with me, Ominjai. Do stay tuned for the details. Many thanks for joining GRTS News, and we start with the Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, who is deputizing for His Excellency President Adama Barrow at the third Turkey-Africa Partnership Summit placed under the theme Enhanced Partnership for Common Development and Prosperity. The summit finally wrapped up in the largest Turkish financial and commercial city, Istanbul. The summit reviewed cooperation between Turkey and African countries since the second summit. Gambia's Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, was among 16 African leaders who unanimously adopted a 5-year action plan at a summit hosted by Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. GRTS's Famara Baji traveled with the delegation and he prepared this report.
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan hosted 16 African heads of state who were accompanied by 102 ministers, including 26 foreign ministers and representatives of the African Union and the Economic Community of West African States at the third Turkey-Africa Partnership Summit. The meeting is a strategic opportunity to strengthen Turkey-Africa relations in different areas of development, such as trade and security, which has grown over the years. Addressing the convergence, President Erdogan says multilateral cooperation between Turkey and Africa is crucial in the Turkish government's agenda, citing his dismay over Africa's lack of a seat at the United Nations Security Council, which he described as a total injustice. The Turkish leader further said Turkey's interest in Africa is not a temporary venture, but a sustainable commitment. The Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia, Dr. Aissatou Toure, who represented President Adama Barrow at the summit, called on the leaders to work closely towards a common interest.
I believe that trade, economic and investment cooperation is an important component in Turkey's relations with African countries. Invariably, we all have a stake in ensuring that this partnership works for the best of the people of Africa and Turkey, who constitute the true core of our friendship. African countries have huge potential, and in the process of streamlining economies, many are emerging as real global players and others are flourishing in terms of growth over the past decade.
African Union Commission Chairman Moussa Faki Mahamat, AU's Chair Felix Tshisekedi, and Senegal's President Macky Sall all hailed the importance of the Turkey-Africa Partnership, which African leaders described as a win-win situation for both camps. Rwanda's Paul Kagame called on the sustenance of gains between Africa and Turkey, whilst Nigeria's Muhammadu Buhari said concerted efforts are needed to fight insurgency in the continent.
These gains will have to be sustained, and there is no doubt that our mutually beneficial cooperation under the Joint Action Plan will be a catalyst for this.
We call upon our partnership to provide concrete support to help defeat terrorism and insurgency on the African continent. Another area this partnership must focus on is the global challenge of climate change, which is impacting us in Nigeria, Turkey, across Africa, and indeed across the world.
After rigorous deliberations by the leaders, the summit unanimously adopted the Turkey-Africa Partnership Joint Action Plan 2021-2026, which contains concrete initiatives to be implemented jointly by Turkey, the African Union, and its member states.
So we are actually going to consolidate those relationships that have already been there, and also to buy into the private sector involvement, which is actually also another big issue that we are also engaged with Turkey. So it's just a question of consolidating, strengthening, and looking at taking the partnership further with Turkey. We have been friends and they have been supporting us, and we've been working together, and I believe that this is towards the right direction.
Our individual countries are definitely tapping the benefits of this cooperation summit. I think Turkey also engaging the African continent, also a lot of development can also come out from this summit. We welcome Turkey's support. We have been working with Turkey. Turkey is a genuine partner, and Turkey is a country at least that has Africa also in heart.
Turkey's presence has grown rapidly on the African continent under President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who has visited more African countries than any other African leader. The volume of bilateral trade between Turkey and Africa rose from $5.4 billion in 2003 to $25.3 billion in 2020. Over the same period, Turkey's foreign direct investment in the African continent grew from $100 million to $6.5 billion, and Turkey's companies has become increasingly present across Africa. This summit is set to further strengthen the existing ties between Turkey and Africa. As per the speeches, hopes are high that a lot of positive will spring out from this summit. Farabaji, GRTS News, Istanbul, Turkey.
Now, the national broadcaster GRTS is celebrating 26 years of service. The Gambia radio and television services continues to build on gains made in the broadcast industry in the country with more advances, expanding distribution and coverage. The broadcaster is the leading provider of reliable content in the Gambia, which has recently witnessed significant growth in its media industry. GRTS has been speaking to the Director General of the national broadcaster about the journey thus far. Take a listen.
2001 has been a year of challenges, of opportunities and successes for GRTS. Challenges because we had very little financial resources at the time. And successes, opportunities, we were able to receive from government a substantial SAP allocation of 36 million, which the institution has not received for a considerable period of time. Successes, we have made a number of successes, one of which was putting the artists back on satellite transmission, which a lot of viewers actually wanted. With the satellite, we were able to reconnect with our viewers, our audience, in both the Gambia and abroad. We also acquired essential equipment like transmitters, like cameras, like vehicles, and this we were able to use successfully in covering the 2021 presidential elections. It really would have been a challenge without the allocation from government. We successfully covered the election in 2020, presidential elections 2021, and even our worst critics, I must say, had been commending the GRTS on this, so it's quite actually an achievement. For the future, GRTS management's objective actually is to make GRTS the station of choice for Gambians both at home and abroad, for radio, television, and online. That's our objective.
Now, many stereotypes quickly to mind when one thinks of disabled farmer, but persons living with disabilities are registering immense success in all areas, including agricultural production. In this special report, GRTS meets a physically challenged gardener making headways in vegetable farming. Harriet Correa of Marakisa is breaking barriers with a focused scheme expanding her agricultural venture. Ajanke Ture traveled to Marakisa village in the West Coast region to find out how her production is thriving.
A courageous and determined Harriet Courier of Marrakech village defies simplistic labeled in her daily struggles, looking after herself and her 4 children. Born in Marrakech village, Kamba Central District's West Coast region, Harriet is physically challenged since the age of 7. She has other livelihood skills in braiding hair to feed her family. That's not even enough. And to improve her income, Harriet ventures into horticultural gardening for more. Her tenacity and unwavering efforts made her ride to the garden as early as 7 a.m. daily.
Ngaje ko sanye dimbaya be mbulule. Mansembo sotombitala dame. Ngajibe.
I have realized that I have children and with no support. Breeding alone cannot solve our needs. That's why I became a gardener.
Korea used to find it very difficult to reach the garden, but with the support of her new hand pedal wheelchair, she rides almost 20 minutes all the way to the farmland. Harriet is mindful of reckless drivers to avoid accident. Passion and commitment, she said, is her driving force. The 3.5-hectare vegetable garden accommodates 321 women gardeners that Harriet has 8 plots in it. It's planting day for Korea. She's transplanting onion seedlings, taking longer than usual due to her condition.
Sometimes I'm not too
Transplanting took me nearly 2 hours because I'm not fast.
This woman, who called herself Maya Sundur, is also a gardener. She described Harriet as an amazing young woman.
Don't just look at her condition. Her plots sometimes looks more beautiful than ours. She's amazing.
A United Nations report in 2021 says that there are growing numbers of persons with disabilities across the world. According to researchers, at least 1 person out of 10 is with some form of disabilities, and at least 25% of the population is negatively affected by the presence of disabilities. Human rights group says the primary responsibility of remedying the conditions that led to impairment and for dealing with the consequences of disabilities lied with the government as duty bearer. However, concerted efforts by individuals and institutions are needed to promote rights of persons with disabilities. Rodney Hayes is the executive director of the Gambia Federation of the Disabled.
But I'm full of admiration for this lady. And the thing that always inspires me about persons with disability is the fact that they have this outward enthusiasm for life. And at the same time, they realize that if you are a person with disabilities, you're always last in the queue. And this requires a completely new look by the government at how they structure their social services, all right? To give these people some hope, right? To give them some income, all right? Because for many of them, they don't have an income. Therefore, they're not mobile. They can't enjoy life the same way as you and I can.
Harriet Courier, like many other living with disability, have a common dream: to become great and able to conquer all challenges. Rights groups are calling for more support. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Janke Ture.
Moving on, members of the Kankiling Kafo of Basse and the 3rd Infantry Battalion have embarked on a massive cleansing exercise at the premises of the Gambia Radio and Television Services GRTS in Basse. The exercise was initiated by the Kankiling Kafo group and joined by the members of the Basse Army Camp. Our URR correspondent Seydou Kamara witnessed the exercise and he files in this report.
This cleansing exercise is a soft appreciation by the community for Kankiling Kafo under the leadership of Mohamed Drame, who partnered with the 3rd Infantry Battalion in the Upper River region to clear the premises of GRTS Radio Basse. The management of GRTS Radio Basse expressed immense delight and appreciation to the volunteers, describing the exercise as a worthy cause.
It's very, very important to come and clear our premises because, as you say, beside the studios is full of grasses. Sometimes staff when they're on duty kill so many reptiles like snakes. This is why a women group in Basse called Kankilim Women Couple decided to come and clear the radio premises. So we also informed the soldiers. The soldiers also came to join them to clear the radio premises. This is very, very important for the staff here at GRTS Radio.
This cleanness is something that we were requesting it for so many times for it to happen. But thanks to the women Kafu here, that is the Kankiling Drame Sisters Kafu and the soldiers from the Basse Infantry Battalion. GRTS is a national broadcaster, and being a national broadcaster, everybody has to play a role there to make sure that staffs working at GRTS from the top to the down, so that they can all feel that GRTS doesn't belong to them, it belongs to the people. And we are thanking our management for the support they always give us and the advices we are working towards to make those so that GRTS is compared to none in this area.
The leader of the Kankiling Kafo, Tida Naso, said the group is very happy to initiate such an exercise because GRTS is their own and every citizen should have a role in providing a conducive environment for the staff working at the institution.
Ajo kontele ngajo mfaye ko puru radio basefana dulala mu nyanta kana je satsatalo katu mobe sura ta jelale je asenia dele wultam faye ngajo ko nata kana je seniandi del Kankiling Kafo Basse.
Captain Ismaila Jiba said the Army's role is beyond security and also entails providing community services in different ways.
Looking at our functions, we only not to provide security, but the other hand also is to help the community, what we call community services. So this is why we are here for. On the side of the sister forces, we are all the same. If all cannot come, but once we are here, we are not here only for GNA or for the armed forces alone, but security as at large. We don't have any boundary when it comes to rendering services to the community.
Members of the GRTS Sisters Group, Ndai Fatufal, Asmatu Ture and Kadi Kamara, all expressed commitment in supporting the institution and call on the general public to take ownership of the national broadcaster GRTS and support the institution efforts. The studio vicinity was accorded a major cleanup, making the space conducive for staff who no longer have to fear reptiles and other pests entering the premises, while people in the area are urged to stop dumping waste around the complex. Seydou Kamara, reporting for GRTS News from Basse Upper River Region.
Now 2 years of COVID-19 and new emerging variants such as the Delta and Omicron are fast changing the world, affecting work, travel and lifestyles across the globe as economies take a major hit around the world. Now GRTS has been talking with Gambians about the impact of the global pandemic with only 172,000 people fully vaccinated in the country. More in this report.
It's been 2 years since the beginning of COVID-19, and populations around the world are fast changing how they work, travel, and interact. Health systems have also seen significant transform amid a global pandemic that continues with emerging variants constantly shifting our understanding of the viral disease, which has now topped healthcare interventions. Around the world, health officials are putting up new stringent measures for people to stay safe. Face masks, hand washing, use of hand sanitizers, physical distancing, and avoid of public gathering have become regular activities for Gambians whose experience of COVID-19 includes a 7-month lockdown that greatly affected businesses and the economy. Only 172 people are fully vaccinated in the Gambia, leaving millions without a single charm. Consistent digital misinformation has been one of the biggest challenges to the vaccination process. Philip Sanyang described misconception around COVID-19 as a major concern
expressed dismay that people are still denying the existence of the deadly virus.
Unless and until people are clear about COVID-19, it's like this misconception will continue. Now, a lot of people believe that it is man-made or it is a foreign thing.
Some of the people I spoke to, such as Ali Low and Maimuna Sengal, say it's difficult to believe in the virus because they only had but have never seen anyone affected. All of them were, however, quick to add that the public should listen to health advice. Businesses has not been as usual since the coming of the virus 2 years ago. We face a lot of obstacles going as merchants trading goods. Life has not been easy and we are not making profit, these gentlemen we met in Serekunda Market lamented. Tijan Salas said the COVID-19 has impeded our economy over the years, with sectors like tourism season struggling to emerge. He called on the government not to impose a lockdown as it affects their livelihoods.
Virtually everything is at a standstill now, and we all know the reason why it happens. It's because of the COVID-19. Look at the tourist season. It's almost dying.
We are living from hand to mouth. A lockdown will be hard, but we need stringent health measures to help curb the spread of the virus, he adds.
People living in denial should follow health advice from the ministry to avoid complacency because COVID is still with us.
At the Serekunda Health Center, a senior nursing officer disclosed that COVID-19 has negatively impacted health workers as some medics die whilst executing their duties during the pandemic.
It has overwhelmed us, especially for the past 3 years. When it came in 2020, many of our staff was affected, and some of us who was lucky not to be affected, we saw what it did to us. Some of us couldn't go back to our homes, to our families.
On the emergence of the new Omicron variant, senior nursing officer David Jr. had this to say.
And talking about the Omicron variant is new variants that South Africa detected, and research have shown that it is not from South Africa, but they was the first to detect it. But we are saying South Africa virus because it was the first to detect it. And these are the most deadly one, because if you see what it's doing in UK right now, it's very, very serious. So as Gambian, we need to take it very serious and adhere to our health protocol, what the Ministry of Health is saying.
As we edge close to the year, a new variant means COVID-19 is still very much around, and the best way to stay safe is to continue following health protocols that have become more crucial amid more transmissible mutations. For the news, this is Yasin Jiba.
Now, a week-long training for 25 participants drawn from farmer associations affiliated to the National Farmers Platform is underway in Genoy Lower River. The capacity building, which seeks to strengthen the leadership and governance skills of farmer groups, targets executives within producer groups under the National Farmers Platform. The training scheme, supported by FAO through the Forest and Farm Facility, was followed by the General Congress of various farmer organizations to elect new executives. Details in this report by our LRR correspondent, Alajimbai.
The capacity building aims to strengthen the leadership and governance skills of executive members of farmer organizations and producer groups affiliated to the National Farmers Platform. This, according to the president of the National Farmers Platform, Siripo Bojang, will include communication and planning skills.
If you check farmer organizations, most of them lack governance skills like communication, so many other skills. And I think this is going to be of great importance when it comes to building the capacity of the executives of farmer organizations affiliated to the Apex Farmer organization, that is the National Farmers Platform.
Mr. Bojang also called on agriculture and natural resources stakeholders to support farmer organizations for enhanced production and productivity.
To call on the ANR family, that is the Minister of Agriculture and Water Resources, to come together and look into these farmer organizations, how they operate. If that is not done, we are nowhere. Because most of these farmer organizations, the way they operate, if they are not looked into by government itself, at the end the farmers will not benefit anything from them. They will go out, look for money, or go out, associate themselves with projects. At the end of the day, this will not filter on the farmers.
Kaniman Kamara of Triple F, who spoke on behalf of FAO, is hopeful that such trainings will contribute to the effective management and sustainability of farmer organizations.
The training is basically supporting producer organizations, the leaders of those producer organizations. We are training them on organizational group management, including governance issues. Because most of these producer groups, they just conducted their congresses. You have new officers taking positions within the executives. They need to be trained. They need to be trained on organizational group management, group strengthening topics, so that at the end of the day, instead of having problematic groups in the Gambia, we want to have well-performing groups addressing the needs and aspirations of their members, so that the production of forest and farm would increase for the better.
Participant Fatou Toure, who is the president of the Female Beekeepers Association, thanked organizers for the initiative, saying it will contribute to the development of their various associations.
It's a very important component in running an organization, because if you are a leader and you don't have the leadership skills, it will be very difficult for you to run your organization or your institution effectively. If you are fortunate to be selected to come and attend the training, you should take the training very seriously and importantly. And the second thing is the sharing of information. Most people will go and attend trainings. When they go back, they will put the files away. The members would not know, they would not share the information, they would not write reports, and that's not good for any organization.
The president of RIFACOF, Antirohi Sise, and the treasurer of the National Farmers Platform, Alhaji Ibrahim Abiai, are hopeful that the training will help participants in the management and governance of their various organizations. Alhaji Mbai, GRTS News.
Action Aid International, the Gambia joined students in the Central River region to celebrate the Day of the African Child. The day's commemoration is part of efforts to increase understanding of human rights in schools. Modlamin Sane reports.
Action Aid International, the Gambia, celebrates the Day of the African Child in the Central River region in a symbolic event expanding their quest to empower youths, women and children by promoting a society free from violence. The historic commemoration took organizers to the Dankunku Basic School, where 150 children from early childhood development converged from 5 schools to mark the day in grand style. The important day was accorded with a colorful march past and an official ceremony that saw officials and parents delivering statements reminding the public about efforts to discourage violence in communities.
Based on that, Action Aid also take it upon itself, particularly at the LRP, to celebrate this event annually. So today we are here to celebrate the Day of the African Child, although it should have been since the 16th of June, but due to circumstances beyond our control, we could not hold it that day. So, but we decided to organize it today. East Africa, that does not fit for children, is not Africa, because children, like any other, in fact, if you look at children, are the most vulnerable. When wars come, children are the most to suffer. During famine, they are the most to suffer. So we said, okay, I think there is the need to protect children. So now, as the day is yet, we built Africa that is fit for children.
The occasion was a perfect opportunity for teachers to explain the reason behind the celebration and how the apartheid era affected people.
It's a very important event as it marks the Day of the African Child, which has a link with apartheid in South Africa. So we are here today. We spend the whole day trying to explain explain to the children what appetite means, what does it mean to celebrate this event.
Activities of the day also feature some athletics, with school-going children competing in track events.
Competition, there was selection where we start from the junior boys and the intermediate, and the competition was very, very nice. But it was very interactive between the teachers and the push and pull that makes it lively, because in any competition there must be a push and pull. So the push and pull happened, but it was very nice. Every teacher was very happy, particularly our the Caroline staffs who happened to win the competition.
The day's celebration ended with a presentation of cash prizes to winners of the athletics events, recognizing students for their participation in the celebration. Moudlamin Sane reporting for GRS News from the Central River region.
Let's go for a short break. The news continues right after. Do stay. Welcome back, sports now, and to the Africa Cup of Nations, which kicks off January 8 in Cameroon. Three-time champions, the Super Eagles, are among the favorites ahead of the tournament, but Nigeria has had to struggle to build up to it, raising questions about whether the Super Eagles can win a fourth African title. CGTN's Phil Ihaza is in Abuja, and this is his report.
A rush of emotions from fans over a goal scored by their football team, the Super Eagles of Nigeria. But in recent months leading to the African Nations Cup in January 2022, many fans say the team has not been very impressive.
Judging from the qualifiers that they've played, qualifier matches that they've played, I don't think the Super Eagles have a chance of winning the next African Cup of Nations.
I think the best that came off Gernot Rohr and his group of coaches was the third place finish we placed at the last Africa Cup of Nations. From that time up until now, we've not seen the desired progress we should see.
I think probably with the change of a coach, maybe even bringing in a home-based coach would be a solution.
The Super Eagles are drawn with Egypt, Sudan and Guinea-Bissau in Group D for the tournament. The team is among the most decorated on the continent, with players from professional leagues abroad, yet they lost to Algeria at the semi-finals in the previous tourney in 2019. There's now pressure on Nigeria's Football Federation to end the 5-year tenure of foreign coach Gernot Rohr.
If you're allowing Gernot Rohr to do the job, then specify how to put a little bit of checks and balances, because we shouldn't have a situation where it looks as if Gernot Rohr is Lord unto himself. Nothing happens, he does whatever he likes, brings in anybody he likes, nobody vets his list, it just goes on like that. With such an attitude, if we are getting results with the free hand he's enjoying, nobody will complain.
Also, experts say rather than over-rely on foreign-based players, authorities will need to improve the country's local league to produce more home-based players that will help make the selection to the national team more competitive.
Gernot Rohr has no place for the local players, and you don't blame him in the present circumstance when your league is perpetually on break. But whether the World Cup, whether the Nations Cup, many a times most countries who had won build their destiny around their nucleus, around the local elements.
Nigeria's Football Federation says it's working towards improving its league and providing all the required support for the national teams like the Super Eagles to shine better at tournaments next year.
Millions of Nigerian football-loving fans at home and abroad will be looking forward to a better performance from the Super Eagles, including a fourth African title in Cameroon. Phil Ihaza, CGTN.
Another quick break. The internationals are up next. Do stay. Welcome back. Now, a legislative council election is underway in Hong Kong, the first poll since the institution of new reforms in the administrative region, where polling station opened early at 8:30 a.m. More in this report.
It is our civic duty to vote for who will be the public servants in Hong Kong. First of all, they must love China. If Hong Kong's legislators do not stand on China's position but oppose the country, they can't work in the Legislative Council and receive a salary from the Hong Kong government. For a long time, I've viewed such behavior with contempt.
I think the most important thing is stability and prosperity. We know that bad things happened in 2018 and 2019. The social unrest and the COVID-19 pandemic is still going on in Hong Kong. I think we still need all social forces for prosperity and stability. However, the most basic principle is that only those who love Hong Kong and love their country should govern the region. For me, I need to express my will by casting a vote.
And Britain has witnessed a surge in Omicron cases as London's mayor declares a major incident to help the city's hospitals cope. The number of Omicron cases now climbs to almost 25,000 on Friday, more than 10,000 from a day earlier, as officials warn this could just be the tip of the iceberg. UK has been added to the Germany's list of high-risk countries with tighter travel restrictions. France has cancelled the annual Paris fireworks amid growing concerns over Omicron. Nearly 60,000 cases were reported on Saturday. The country's health minister says Omicron accounts for more than 10% of new confirmed cases, and the Netherlands would go into lockdown over the Christmas period in a bid to stop an Omicron surge. Michael Frost reports from London.
First all-night vaccination centres have opened in England. With a record 93,000 new daily cases, the rush is on to contain the highly contagious new Omicron variant. Almost half the population, though, have now had their third jab. Hospitals are reporting a rise in the number of patients in intensive care, some of who have been double vaccinated.
I don't think it's going to happen. I've been double jabbed as well. May and July I was jabbed. And I did say if I hadn't been vaccinated I probably wouldn't be here.
Doctors at this hospital fear it's going to get much worse.
So all of the meetings that we've attended insofar as the network is concerned where modelling is taking place, the message is clear that this looks like it's the calm before the storm.
There are reports the UK government is considering a short 2-week circuit breaker lockdown, though this could face stiff opposition from many in the ruling Conservative Party. There were long queues at the Eurostar railway station in London on Friday night as passengers tried to take the train to France before it closed its borders to people travelling from Britain. France is also seeing a surge in COVID cases, leaving its hospitals under pressure.
The Mulhouse Hospital ICU is currently at full capacity, as patients have been coming in for the last 20 days. 70% of the ICU patients are COVID-positive cases.
France has reopened large venues such as this velodrome for mass vaccinations and is now offering them to 5-year-olds. Germany has also started vaccinating everyone over the age of 5. The fear is that the situation is going to get much worse.
And that ends the news from Banjul, but a quick look at our top stories once again before we take leave. Expanding opportunities for trade. African nations are recommitting to cooperation with Turkey in the 3rd edition of the Turkey-Africa Partnership Summit. GRTS at 26, the national broadcaster is celebrating nearly 3 decades of television broadcasting, putting the Gambia on a global pedestal. And 2 years of COVID-19, GRTS examines the public's view on the ravages of the global pandemic and new variants changing policy and lifestyles around the world. And in sports, 3-time champions Super Eagles are among top favorites ahead of the Nations Cup. But can Nigeria win a 4th African title after struggling in the build-up? And in the internationals, voters in Hong Kong headed to the polls for the first time since major reforms brought in new security laws last year. And Europe is moving to tighten restrictions as the Omicron variant spreads. Well, that's it from me and the entire news team. Thank you for watching, and Extra Touch is up next. Do stay tuned.